Joining us now from Charlottesville with his perspective on the coverage of the violence there and the president's response in the aftermath is Larry Sabato, director of the Center for Politics at the University of Virginia. Larry, welcome. And before we get to the media, you've been teaching at UVA for decades. You were a student at the school in Charlottesville before that. What's been the impact on the community of the violence and the aftermath?
It's been enormous, Howie. No event in the 47 years that I've been associated with the University of Virginia has had this kind of impact. And, you know, it's partly on Charlottesville, the impact partly on the University of Virginia, because the neo-Nazis appeared in two different places in two different contexts. Could I just mention one thing that's really important? These people were outsiders, and I've seen too many media reports that haven't stressed that. 2 or 3 local malcontents were involved, but other than that, these people came from across the United States. So it's important to know the University of Virginia and Charlottesville are not full of white supremacists.
Right, but there have been racial tensions there. I was down in Charlottesville a couple of years ago covering an incident of a liquor arrest where a black student was kind of roughed up and was caught on a cell phone camera. But here's the thing. You've been very critical of President Trump's response to the violence, but you've also been kind of a dispassionate observer for the media. You wrote a book called Feeding Frenzy. Isn't there something of a feeding frenzy going on over the president's words, which did include some denunciations of neo-Nazis and white supremacists?
Well, sure. There's always a feeding frenzy when there's a controversy involving what a president does and says. And you're right, he did mention that on Monday. On Monday, he stressed that. The remarks on Monday were fine. Saturday, he missed his moment. He could have had a very positive dose of publicity and proven himself to be truly president of the United States, not president of the Trump base. And then he took it all back on Tuesday. It was just almost unbelievable. And even the prominent Republicans here in Virginia and this area are very critical of the way he handled this.
Let's take a little broader look. You've said that you heard, at least you've heard chatter and talk about a new civil war that could become more widespread. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm worried because the divisions are deeper than at any time that I've personally seen. I remember the late 60s and early 70s. I was already an adult and was participating in politics, and I was concerned then that the divisions were then quite deep. But these times are so extremely polarized. Everyone's dug in. Nobody even listens to the other side. And look, when was the last time people were totally dug in and didn't even listen to the other side? I'd say it was 1860 to 1865. Do I expect a civil war? God, I hope not. I'm 65. Please delay it until I die. But, you know, I am worried about it. I think any sane person living in this country who cares about the United States would be concerned about this deep polarization.
Well, I agree with you about the deep polarization, but at the same time, I think we should keep in mind that these are fringe groups when we're talking about the neo-Nazis and KKK types, which brings me finally to your tweet of the other day saying that the neo-Nazis who came to Charlottesville got what they came for, massive publicity for a sick agenda. So to some extent, Larry, is the press playing into their hands?
Oh, absolutely. And frankly, so did many people here in giving them too much attention. I wish we could have completely ignored them. It's not possible because of what's happened with the media and what's happened with the neo-Nazi groups. But Howie, I love you, but I got to disagree with you on one thing. I also thought these were fringe groups. But let me tell you what it was like to stand on the University of Virginia lawn, a sacred place for me and everyone connected to the University of Virginia, Thomas Jefferson's lawn, and to watch hundreds of neo-Nazis with their tiki torches screaming anti-Semitic and racist slogans right out of a 1930s German Hitler Nazi propaganda film. Let me tell you something. It's not just frightening. It will shake you to your core.
Understood, and glad to have your sort of eyewitness account of that. Of course, many of them from out of town. Larry Sabato, great to see you. Thank you for joining us from Charlottesville.